All right, hello, we're here. So we're gonna get right to it. No yapping for me. We got a lot of work to do. So unfortunately, was supposed to be a long streaming day, but as usual, things happen that are beyond my control that I have to prioritize, such as work-related things. So let's get about maybe 45 minutes worth of work. Then we can actually figure out things as we go. But yeah, unfortunately, things do happen, which I gotta prioritize. So let's see. So I believed what were we talking about yesterday? Oh, this is when the watcher doesn't act. Okay, so let me just go over this one more time. I looked at my outline before I started streaming. So after this specific section, we got to move on to the cultural differences in surveillance. Okay, so movement commands attention, signals threat, but sometimes it is stillness, the absence of action, that creates the deepest dread. In many horror games, figures lurk in the distance or appear in your peripheral vision, yet they do not move. Don't move. Not just monsters, but environmental objects can instill. Okay, so I need to put that there. Not just monsters, but environmental objects. No, we don't need that actually. Okay. Not just monsters, but environmental objects can instill fear into the player. Statues, shadowy figures, and faces frozen in place do nothing but watch. Imagine standing alone in a dark hallway. At the far end, a figure stands unmoving, eyes locked onto you. You wait for it to approach, to attack, to make any movement at all, but it simply stands. It is waiting for you to come closer. Is it waiting for you to come closer? Has it already decided your fate, or does your very presence satisfy it? The stillness this excuse me, the stillness transforms the watcher from predator to judge, The horror is no longer about physical harm, but psychological torment. You're trapped in a moment where nothing happens, but everything is implied. Horror games use this by crafting environments where threat lingers silently, which forces the player to wrestle with uncertainty, anticipation, and dread. Because the worst type of fear is fear of the unknown. In a sense, the gaze does not act. The gaze that does not act is the gaze that condemns. Okay, well, that's pretty straightforward. Like, I don't really feel like we need to go into any more detail about that. Like, I was giving an example of OG's Pyramid Head in Silent Hill 2, just Red Pyramid Head, if you don't know who it is, just staring at you, not doing anything, just standing there menacingly. So I think, for the most part, this section's good. Like, I guess it's like I don't feel like I need to add any more information. Like, we got straight to the point. If anything, we'll just come back to it. So, cultural differences. I know a bit about this, but we'll jot down things. I'll probably have to come back later just to fact check myself, but for the most part, it's pretty self-explanatory as well. The East and the West are two different beasts. Okay, let's see. How do I want to start this? Hmm. Fear of being watched is a universal human experience. Deeply Fear of being watched is a universal human experience, but how that fear manifests is deeply shaped by cultural perspectives. Culture perspectives Uh, cultural perspectives, history. We need history. Cultural perspectives, history, and context. Fear being watched is a universal human experience, but how that fear manifests is deeply shaped by cultural perspectives, history, and context. Hmm. Games or speaking of storytelling, I gotta make sure. I've been holding off the art of storytelling for so long. It's mostly because I kind of forgot about it. I usually have my scripts written down, but just a lot of requests came through in the past couple of months, specifically for like for Yumi Neko. So Yumi Neko, um, Vera's thing. It's just it kind of got pushed aside, and I just remembered like literally last week, like shit, I was supposed to do like the art of storytelling and high level horror games that their lore is just like unconventional, like Rule of Rose and Parasite Eve. So definitely, I got to get to that soon. Horror games, like all storytelling mediums, mediums. Cultural influences inflecting back. Gotta keep an eye on time because I actually gotta go get dinner soon. Oh, on a fun side note, I received while I was out and about, I received a very fun trollish comment on one of my very old videos back when I was using Obamba when my injury prevented me from actually dubbing videos. I used to give my own opinions in the lore files. Like I'm very vocal about my opinions of certain things. So some people like it, some people don't like it, that type of thing. You know how it is. Like I'm very vocal when it comes to stuff. But someone posted a comment at 133, who is this guy? And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, all right, that's funny. But yeah, I'm like, it's funny how this channel has shifted gears from way back when. I was more experimental back then because I didn't know how I was gonna go about this revival of this channel. Because obviously, this channel back in the day was just before my military life was reviewing anime figures and all that fun stuff. And I realized, like, yeah, like in all our anime figure reviews, like we do a lot of lore, and I know lore about a lot of things, so might as well just shift the tone from just that to just straight up lore. I mean, that's where we are now. And with lore files, back then it's like, oh, well, I guess people don't like when I yap or put myself in the video, so I'll just save my presence for streaming, and people could actually see me giving my opinions and writing out like my scripts. So as people have seen, I'm barely even a presence in my own videos besides the voiceovers. But yeah, that was kind of a funny comment. I'm like, oh wow, this is a very old video when I used to just yap my opinions in the videos. Interesting. So horror games, like all storytelling mediums, absorb these cultural influences and reflect them back. Uh, this molds the this molds the watcher's gaze. This molds the watcher's gaze. too distinct. That resonate. Excuse me. Horror games, like all storytelling mediums, absorb these cultural influences and reflect them back. This molds the watcher's gaze to distinct worldviews that resonate on personal levels. Hmm. I do have to admit, when it comes to like a storytelling perspective, or even like the whole East versus West like debate in regards to like horror, I do admit I do prefer the East because I like psychological, like using horror games as an example. I like the psychological aspect that the East does employ. I'm not a fan of like the shock terror that the West is pretty much known for. I mean, I do admit that. Like, there's only so much gore. Like, even like when in horror movies, like I can only stomach so much. Like, it's like using Fatal Frame as an example. Like, wow, if you really look at it, like Fatal Frame 4 and 5 were peak psychological roller coasters. Um, but yeah, like when it comes to like the East versus West thing, I definitely prefer like the East when it comes to like stuff like this. That's just me. This is my own personal opinion. It's not. It should never be seen as fact. Anything I say here should never be seen as fact. We've learned the hard way that when it comes to YouTube, like your opinions can get you like crucified. So in that case, let's do Western horror first. Then we'll move on to Eastern horror. We gotta be like specific. We're not like doing the whole psychological horror thing. We're talking about like when it comes to like surveillance. So we gotta be a little bit more specific and not like deviate because I tend to deviate a lot. It's not that crazy. Like, we reach the end goal, but I take different paths to reach my goal at the end of the day. And unfortunately, people suffer because some of these videos get pretty like long, like very very long. Give me a sec. It is almost 4 o'clock. Again, I just gotta keep track of time. If not, I won't have dinner tonight. No, I'll have dinner. It's just not gonna be the best. Okay. So in Western horror. Fear. Hmm. Anxieties. I'm just thinking. Just give me a moment. It's funny. Earlier, I was watching Hollow play Five Nights at Freddy for the first time, which I was like surprised that he never really played. I'm like, oh wait, what? Five Nights at Freddy 1, you've never played it? I'm like, all right, let me just sit. I got nothing to do. I'm doing work related stuff. Let me just sit down and watch. And I'm like, oh yeah, wow, interesting. I'm doing a video about surveillance. Like the surveillance in Five Nights at Freddy's is a pure example of yeah, you're just like screwed when it comes to like things just not working in your favor. Like especially limited I'm pretty sure it's the phone guy that says there's blind spots right outside the doors that your camera can't see. Like there's always things lurking in the shadows. Cameras were out. I'm like, ah, yeah, this is a. Let me sit down and watch this whole thing, and we'll and see how I can tie it into a later stream. But yeah, like, but so I was pleasantly surprised. I was surprised actually. I was like, wow, you've never played FNAF? I'm like, oh, okay. You're the premier horror guy besides the Rad Brad on YouTube. Interesting. So in Western horror, the fear of being watched can spring from anxieties about control, the loss of privacy. I'm gonna be cute here. In the insidious reach of technology, insidious, and I totally butchered that. Of course, I butcher it. Insidious reach of technology. Whenever I hear like a weird noise, I just assume the intercom above me is gonna go off because it was a pretty funny jump scare they got me with the other day. I'm like, oh shit, what the fuck just happened? So yeah, whenever I hear like a weird noise, I'm like, oh, y'all about to say something? This can mirror Big Brother. Yeah, it can. It's gonna be kind of hard. Yeah, this is going to be a doozy in Western horror. Connor Hearts 3 Love Max 6 stars. Holy shit! Sorry, I got Steam up in the background. Wow, that's random. Holy shit! You don't even need to put that. Let's be honest. Don't drink unless you're an adult. To an extent, Marcus in Resident Evil Zero, when he kept on spying on Rebecca and Billy until he finally made his move, like at the end of the game. Like Marcus in Resident Evil Zero was weird. Like he really did not make his presence known until like the end of the game. Like wow, there was build up, but there wasn't good build up. That's my opinion. That I feel like it was kind of wasted potential there. But that's just he was utilizing the cameras just to keep an eye on Billy and Rebecca. Like the only time you really like see him is at the end of the game. It's like, oh, okay, wow, all right, cool. Yeah, I actually think that's the only time you really get to see him. Is like he makes his presence known just by his actions. Like obviously with infecting the train, trolling Wesker and Birkin. Um, yeah, like he's more so acting in the shadows than more than anything. Like him introducing himself later on, I mean, great. Like there's the big reveal that you finally see the intent. Wow, it's. I'm opening up a can of worms. Don't mind me. I'm just thinking right now. Just don't mind me. Wow. Yeah, there's really no build up. Like, is it the traditional build up? But yeah, using Marcus as an example, yeah, he utilizes the technology does to keep an eye on Billy and Rebecca throughout their journey and just doesn't really act until the end of the game. That's just one example. Hmm. I guess Wesker the with the cameras. Yeah, Wesker with the cameras. I mean, Code Veronica when he was being an ass. Well, again, I'm gonna always be a prime disliker of hunters and Code Veronica, specifically sweepers. But Wesker did utilize technology to to notify him to release those hunters. No, I rephrase that. Wesker and Code Veronica released those cameras, which were affixed to the hunters. So the cameras would pinpoint Chris's locations and notify the hunters to go do their thing. So in a sense, yeah, he did utilize technology to for his example for as an example. Hmm. Yeah. Western horror games reflect this by placing players in a world filled with surveillance systems, stalkers who can exploit technology. This is a big one, at least these days. This is a little bit more scarier these days, but it's a topic for another day. All right, let's read this. So the fear of being watched is a universal human experience, but how that fear manifests is deeply shaped by cultural perspectives, history, and context. Horror games, like all storytelling mediums, absorb these cultural influences and reflects them back. This molds the watcher's gaze to distinct worldviews that resonate on personal levels. In Western horror, the fear of being watched can spring from anxieties about control, the loss of privacy, and the insidious reach of technology. The gaze, in a sense, can be seen as mechanical, institutional, and cold. Western horror games reflect this by placing players in worlds filled with surveillance systems, stalkers who can exploit technology, and AI that can assess and punish human actions. The Watcher can be seen as a symbol of invasion, an external force imposing its will while stripping away autonomy and safety. Give me a sec. Damn, time really does fly. Holy shit. Alright, sorry about that. Okay. Alright, so I think that's good. I don't feel like we need to add anything else. Like, when it comes to Western horror, well, surveillance, well, horror in general, it's definitely different from their Eastern counterparts. Okay. I think we can just come back to this later, but let's just start with the Eastern side of things. Eastern Eastern horror. Maybe using a lot of fatal frame here. Definitely a ghost. Definitely ghosts. The East loves their ghosts. So, which is depending on the game. I'm gonna yap like a sec. Depending on the game, it really, 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 really like it's it's in my opinion it's inconsistent with ghosts. Yes, using ghosts as an example, depending on the game, they're either just always watching you, barely make their presence known, or they're extremely hostile. Using like Fatal Frame as an example, which I always do, Fatal Frame ghosts are overpowered, like extremely overpowered. Like they will not. You can seal them away slash exercise them with the camera obscura, but depending on how powerful the ghost is, they just come right back. It's like okay, they were just inconvenienced, then they go right back to giving you the spooks. Or so contrasting that with Ghost in like White Day, which White Day is a Korean horror game, and it's like, wow, yeah, like these ghosts. Sure, they do the same thing as like Fatal Frame ghosts. They observe you, but they can just straight up. You can't do anything about it. Like they're just always gonna be there. They're just gonna. They're trying to like actively. I can't even say actively kill you. They just. There's a major contrast between like Japanese ghosts and Korean ghosts. The same thing like with mangas and manhwas. Like there's a stark contrast. If I'm reading like a manga, if I'm reading like a manga and I'm like, okay, this manga's pretty good, I'll go to a Korean manhwa and just be absolutely terrified because that's how different like the writing styles is from like Japan and Korea. Like if I'm having like my spooky fix, I will always go to Korea for some straight up nightmare fuel. But it's vastly different from Japanese. So contrast this with Eastern horror, where the fear of being watched is shown with layers of shame, judgment, and spiritual reckoning. Here, the watcher is a faceless authority or machine. It is often a ghost, spirit, or divine presence. I would even say like they're most so passive. They're in a sense more passive in Japan compared to like their Korean counterparts. Because holy shit, wow. But yeah, that's a little thinker right there. Depending on the region you're in, you might get you'll get the complete opposite effect. For divine presence, it's often a ghost, spirit, or divine presence that's immediately tied to the game world, to the world, to the world. And again, Fatal Frame. Just I know I'm beating a dead horse, but Fatal Frame is a prime example of the. I would definitely say the fourth game was definitely that's just something you got to experience yourself. That game was Fatal Frames aren't really scary per se. Like they'll get you if you're not too careful. But Fatal Frame 4, those ghostos were actively trying to kill you. So in these, I'm gonna do like another 8 minutes because I definitely gotta get dinner. In these narratives being watched, these narratives being watched, it's more of a psychological aspect of it. So you're being seen through means being seen through, such as your darkest secrets, your deepest secrets, and it's about your deepest secrets, deepest secrets, your deepest secrets, failings, and your sins. I'm gonna be a little cheeky right now. Okay. I'm gonna read this whole thing over. The fear of being washed. 13 years later. The fear of being watched is a universal experience, but how that fear manifests is deeply shaped by cultural perspectives, history, and context. Horror games, like all storytelling mediums, absorb these cultural influences and reflect them back. This molds the watcher's gaze to distinct worldviews that resonate on personal levels. In Western horror, the fear of being watched can spring from anxieties, control, the loss of privacy, and the insidious reach of technology. The gaze, in a sense, can be seen as mechanical, institutional, and cold. Western horror games reflect this by placing the players in worlds filled with surveillance systems, stalkers who can exploit technology, or AI that can assess and punish human actions. The Watcher can be seen as a symbol of invasion, external force imposing its will. Oh my god! While stripping away autonomy and safety. Contrast this with Eastern horror, where the fear of being watched is shown with layers of shame, judgment, and spiritual reckoning. Here, the Watcher is rarely a faceless authority or machine. It's often a ghost, a spirit, or divine presence that is immediately tied to the world. In these narratives, being watched means being seen through your deepest secrets, your failings, and your sins. The gaze carries on the weight of accountability, a reckoning that transcends the physical realm. Hmm. I like it. I like it. I'm running out of time. Okay, let's do like another couple seconds or two, then we'll start wrapping things up. I had to come back with this because this more I can add to this. This is not there's definitely more I can add to this. Siren, Fatal Frame, even White Day, Silent Hill, in a sense. Yeah. Horror games. Oh. Especially Grudges. Especially Grudges. Divine Retribution. Watcher. We're the Watcher. All right, that's good. That's good. That's good. Horror games in the East explore themes of cursed bloodlines, lingering grudges, and divine retribution, where the Watcher is a force reminding you that you cannot hide from who you are or what others have done. I put that section there just because of not Fatal Frame, White Day. Like a lot of stuff that happened in White Day is because of the actions of others, and the MCs are usually just brought into the middle of it. A couple of MCs, mind you, not all of them. So you can't hide from who you are, what others have done. Okay, that's good. All right. So unfortunately, I do gotta go get dinner, or else I will not get dinner. This was a good stream, about 45 minutes worth of work. Later tonight, I'll do some sprite animation, and besides that, I'll see people tomorrow. Hopefully, I'll have a little bit more time to get some stuff done. Besides that, take care. Bye bye.